Hello and welcome to Judy's Creations in Crochet. And today is September the 14th, 2023. And we are continuing on with our monthly celebration because September is not only my podiversary, it is my birthday. I did my very first video on my birthday, September the 23rd, 2 years ago, 2021. And that is why we happen to do Thursday videos, because the first video was on a Thursday. And it turned out to be a good decision. Thursday is a good day for me to be releasing my videos. So we've not only made 2 years, we just recently made 1,000 viewers, subscribers, and I like to spend the month in celebration. So if you're new here, you've just happened on us at a time when we are doing some major celebrations. And we have, I think, some kind of special videos throughout this entire month. Now I am, as my name says, I am all about crochet. Sorry, I don't knit at all. One day I may attempt it. I have in the past, and we did not see eye to eye. So if you like to see finished objects in crochet and you like to hear about yarn, I do a lot of showing yarn acquisitions, and the yarn that I show is hand-dyed yarn. I got a little friend here helping me out today. He won't stay long. I like to buy hand-dyed yarn and show you the various yarns that I get from hand dyers, and most recently I have been strongly focusing on Canadian hand dyers just because of the expense with the exchange, which has been a little bit high lately. I have done both US and Canada, and I've bought from hand dyers over in Europe as well, but I'm trying to focus right now on Canadian hand dyers. So if this is what you like to see, I hope you will stay around and or come back from week to week. I think we have a good time here. So today I'm going to get right into it. Today is a video showing you how to style various accessories. Now, the kind of things that I like to crochet are things like ponchos, shawls. Shawls are my #1 favorite. And by shawls, I mean triangular shawls. Other people may call what I call a wrap, a rectangular shawl. I also like making asymmetrical triangles, which are often called shawls as well. I like to make scarves or wraps that are on the bias, and my one skein wonders, I call them. What I actually call these are fashion scarves, different from a scarf you would wear on your coat in the winter, or under your coat around the neck in the winter. So the items that I want to talk about today there are 4 of them: shawls, wraps, asymmetrical triangles or shawls or wraps, and fashion scarves. I want to show you different ways to style them, because that is a question I get a fair bit, especially with an asymmetrical triangle. So in order to do this, I actually videotaped that segment of the show today at a different time. I did it earlier in the week so I wouldn't feel rushed, and I taped it in another space. So I'm going to cut away now to the video that I made explaining how to different ways to style these 4 accessories. So I'm entitling this segment "How to Wear Your Accessories." The four categories of accessories I'm going to talk about today are first, shawls. And by a shawl, I mean a triangular, symmetrical shaped triangle shawl. Now, I know people use the term shawl for other things, and I will tell you my terms for them. Shawls sometimes also refer to a rectangular piece. I call that a wrap. Just to distinguish, I use different terms so you know what I'm talking about. Then the other two categories I'm talking about are fashion scarves, and they come in a variety of shapes. I'll talk about that in a minute. And the fourth category I want to talk about are asymmetrical triangles. And again, some people will call them asymmetrical shawl. But you will know the difference in what I am referring to when I say asymmetrical triangle, shawl, and wrap. Those are all three get called shawls by different people. So before I start though, and I'm first of all, you'll notice I've moved locations. I moved in here to tape this segment because there's going to be a lot of moving around. I have all three of my models with me today, and I have more room to move them around, and I'm on a floor that they can glide, not on a rug, so it's easier to shift them around. But before we look at the various items I want to talk about, I thought we first could mention some of the tools you can use when trying to style these items. So we're all quite familiar with something called a shawl pin, and I have a few examples of shawl pins. Here is a little kitty with a pin. The pin goes through it. You bunch up the material and then you put the pin through it. I have another shawl pin. I don't actually have the pin that goes with it, but this is a very beautiful and dressy and neutral one. And one of my favorite shawl pins, another cat, but it has two sticks that go through it, and they crisscross to make it look like whiskers on the cat. So there's a couple examples of shawl pins. You can also get, this one isn't quite big enough, but you can also get a plain pin, stick pin. Sometimes they will have a very decorative top, and they can be longer than this. And a nice long one is useful, and I'll show you how I would use this a little bit later. Another item that you will see people talk about is a shawl cuff. And again, they come in various sizes and widths. It's usually a leather piece that goes around and snaps shut. I'm not going to snap this shut right now. And they come in different colors and sizes. And you can also get a cuff. I saw them wider than this, but they come long. And then you can wrap it several times around your shawl, depending on how thick it is. It can be used on a very thick, like 4-weight, worsted weight shawl or wrap or whatever you're using. Or it could be used on a very thin one and then wrapped more times. And then it goes through this buckle idea at the end to fasten it. They have different ways to fasten them. Sometimes they have another snap on them. So that's another popular one. I got all of my shawl cuffs off of Etsy. And there is another shawl pin. It has a name, and I don't know the name of it. And it is a circular piece, completely circular, and that it has attached on the back of it like a shawl pin, but it's attached, and it is hinged, so it's free moving. And what you do is you take the pin through your shawl, and then you close the circle over it, and it has a gap so that the pin comes through it. Then you can turn the circle part way, and it holds it nice and secure. And I intend to get one of those maybe very soon. And when I do, I'll be sure to show you. But some shawl pins can get to be expensive. So what are some inexpensive things you can use? Well, I've heard some people say they use bamboo chopsticks, and they work fine too. And then I got this item, and this is just a plain hair barrette. It's a hair barrette with a snap on the back. And I have worn this on a shawl, and you just have to put this through your shawl, and then you close it up and it snaps and holds. And then you have, I didn't go get too carried away, but that is quite pretty on a shawl or a scarf if you want something. Now, I got some of the ideas today from a lady who has a company called Jewel, J-U-L Designs, and she makes a lot of shawl pins and cuffs and so on. And she also makes something, here it is, Jewel Designs. There's her information. And she makes something also called a button, and they're leather. They come in 3 different sizes, and it has a small leather disc on the back, and it has a center post that screws into the back. So you can unscrew it, put it through your item. I don't want this screw to go falling. Take this off the back, put it through your item, put this back on, and then you screw this piece in, and it goes all the way in. Of course, it won't go in now that I want it to. It screws all the way in, and it goes right flush with the shank on the back of the button. So you have a very smooth, see that it's very smooth back there. No part of the actual thread will be showing. And she has these, this is a medium sized one, but she has them in small, medium, and large. And I watched a video she did with Bonnie Barker of Bonnie Bay Designs. How many of you seen Bonnie Bay on YouTube? She does some very beautiful designs, particularly likes to do Celtic knots and different kinds of cables and that kind of thing. Well, they did a show, and I'm going to link it down below. It's really worth your watching. And she shows how she uses these on probably heavier items than what I have here to show you today. I have one item that would be okay with it. But she has handmade shawl pins, and these buttons are handmade, and the cuffs and everything. She has lots to choose, and she's in, I think she's in California. So I've shown you the items you can use, and I will try to use a couple of them, but I don't want to take a lot of time fastening things. I really think that you will find it kind of interesting, some of the ways she shows how to fashion or style the items you're wearing. So I'm going to start with what I call fashion scarves. Most people just call them scarves, but I think when I mention scarf, most people think of a scarf that you would put on your coat to wear outside, especially up here in colder climates. They might think of a silk scarf that's just long and narrow that you can put around your neck, and there are ways to tie them, or a scarf that is an infinity scarf that you fold and put over your head. That's what a lot of people think of when they think of scarves. They don't think of something like what I am wearing today, and I'm going to show you a few styles they come in. So that's why I call them a fashion scarf, to differentiate between something I'm going to wear on my clothing as an accent piece from something I would wear on my coat and for warmth in the winter. So the fashion scarf, the scarf that I'm wearing today is one of the many shapes you will see. This one is basically a shawl shape, but it would be called a shawlette because it's not as big as a shawl. This is one of my one skein patterns. I absolutely love this one because it is, I'm not sure that you can see it. It is sparkle in blue, one of my favorite colors. That's why I'm wearing it this month. September is the sapphire. And the pattern is a Zurzur shawl pattern from Reggie at J Hook Crochet. So one shape that a fashion scarf can come in is a shawl shape or shawlette. Another shape, this would be a similar idea. This is a little more of a shawl. It's not open and lacy. If I ever had a shawl open and lacy like this, I would always wear it around my neck. Some of them are fuller, like more solid. But this is too real small to wear as a shawl. And some of them, okay, I got things all over the place here. Some of them will come in what looks to be more like an asymmetrical triangle. And I'm going to be talking about asymmetrical triangles later. I might try to fashion this as one of them. This has a nice border along the side, but some of them, I thought I had another one with me to show you. Some of them, although they look to be asymmetrical, they still have design features along the bottom straight edge. And in fact, they don't come to a straight edge or a point. They're curved, and they're called a boomerang style. And a boomerang style is very popular in what I call a fashion scarf. But I would handle a boomerang pretty much the same way I would handle an asymmetrical scarf. And another, get my girl over here, she was too far away. This is what I was looking for, fell on the floor. It looks asymmetrical, but as you see, it isn't completely. It has a curve in it at the bottom, and then it curves back up, and it has a decorative edge all the way around, from this side all the way around the curve and along the far side. And it is curved, and they do call it boomerang. This is a CJ Brady pattern, and it looks sort of like a boomerang. That's another style. And then finally, you will also see some that are shaped like this one, and it is a triangle, but it is not meant to be a shawl. It starts at this end, very small, it gets wider, and when it gets to the middle point, then it decreases. So it looks like a shawl, but it has much longer sides. It doesn't get very deep, and it has very long sides. And again, you can wear it the way I am wearing this, but you can also wear it. We'll get her in here a little bit closer. We'll put this on her so that the point is at the back. And then you can just leave the front draped if you so choose. Or you can tie a little knot in it. If you don't like a knot, you could always just crisscross it, and you could put one of these shawl cuffs. Now this one is probably bigger than you would use. It's because it doesn't get small. But what I would do is use that little one. And I know you can't see what I'm doing exactly. I would wrap it around several times. See, that's why I said I didn't want to take the time to demonstrate all of these items because it takes time. But I didn't wrap it tight enough. It will fall off later. But just so you get the idea, you could, and once you have it wrapped, you can pull your scarf as tight as you would like it to be inside that shawl cuff. And once you have it tied, and this is a nice way to wear it, there are other ways. You can put it off to the side if you like to have something interesting at the side with both of them hanging down the front. Or you can put it one at the back, one at the front. There are different ways that this can be worn. I know this is gonna, but you want it tight. Personally, I think I like it down a little bit further, and then you can spread out the scarf so that it can be seen nicely when you're wearing it. So this one I have often worn in the front around like I have this one, but there are other ways to wear this one. So that is one type of accessory is the fashion scarves. Now, I did mention that fashion scarves come in asymmetrical shape, and I'm going to be talking about asymmetrical shape in a few minutes. So that'll apply to both the big ones and the smaller one skein ones. This, by the way, is another pattern by Reggie at J Hook Crochet, and it's the pattern that I got in her Christmas Advent calendar a couple years ago, but she now sells it on her Etsy shop, and you make this nice lacy border as you go. Same with this one. The border on it is made as you go. You don't have to put it on later. And I believe this is called the Masquerade Shawl, because it was a masquerade theme. So I'll talk about asymmetrical things a little bit later. So next I want to move on to shawls, as I call them, shawls. And shawls, if they are thin enough or lacy enough, made with a fingering weight, are usually able to be turned around and worn this way instead of your typical shawl way to wear it. So I have a shawl back here, and this shawl is quite light. It is made with a gradient cake that is cotton and acrylic, and you can see it's got quite an open weave to it. And so it definitely can be worn up around the neck. But this shawl is actually particularly large, larger than I generally make a shawl. It is quite long. I think it's called the butterfly shawl. See the butterflies there at the center? So it reminds you of the virus shawl, but it is much more open. And these are supposed to be butterflies here in the middle. And of course, you can wear this shawl like most other shawls. If you're wearing it for some warmth, you put it around your shoulders, and we all know this is one way to wear a shawl. And a second way to wear a shawl is the way I'm wearing it. But there are a few other ways to wear the shawl. Again, it is helpful to have some of these tools, I'm going to call them, instead of accessories. It helps to have some of them as well. Now, I may have to lift her up, but I'm going to start with, if you have a big one like this, and this is cotton, this is big enough and long enough to be worn around the hips and tied, sort of what I call sarong fashion. This model is slim, but they don't make them human size. But you see what I mean? It can be tied around the hips, and this has a very, very long tail, so it could go around a human size, not a 4XL, but I think it could go all the way up to an XL, because it is so long. And some people might put it on over, say, a bathing suit, because it is cotton. That's another way that a shawl can be fashioned. Now, in watching that video I mentioned to you, she talks about other ways to wrap a shawl around you and use like a shawl cuff. And once you put the cuff on it, you can move it different places. She also shows heavier shawls than this. I can't demonstrate them. Heavier shawls with this that use the button, and you can adjust where they go. But one thing she showed I found quite interesting is if you have a shawl with a very nice border. Now my border isn't all that fancy, but she had a shawl that Bonnie Bay made that had a very, very nice border. And she says, take your shawl the opposite way, put the point up, and then fold over the point. Then put it around your model or yourself, and you have a nice collar here. You have a wrapper shawl that you can still, in this case, is long enough that I could tie it in the front. And I have this very, very nice feature of my fancy shawl making like a collar. And at the back, the fancy, this isn't real fancy, but even so, it shows up nice because of the gradient color. I have some of the dark color next to the very light color, and it dresses it up some. And again, you have choices as to what to do with the shawl. You can tie it like I did. You could, in this case, wrap it around your shoulder. She also showed, I found this interesting and I will try it with the asymmetrical one. She showed a way to cross it over. She's big on making the diagonal, because the diagonal goes up to your face and you want things to point to your face. But you could just wrap it across here. I'm not doing anything fancy. I just took one side and I wrapped it across, and then I could, and I'm not going to do it, I could put my shawl pin in here and it would hold it across my body so I don't have to worry about it. I have this nice collar effect to maybe give a little extra warmth depending on the shawl and where you're wearing it. So I thought that was quite interesting. And I don't tend to like to make shawls really long, but now when I see her doing this, she also showed that you might put a button on one side and another button on the other side, so that you would hold this side over a little bit so it's not falling down. Having those buttons allows you to do a number of things that are different, but I wouldn't mind it hanging down and then just put a shawl pin. Heck, I could do this. I could take this hairpin that I have, this barrette, and I could put it through the two of them. You can't buy a teeny barrette. The barrette has to be able to hold a certain amount, but there it is. And isn't that interesting? And it would be very pretty if you were out for an evening or going out to supper and you have this pretty feature at the back, and you might like that better than, because this is what it looks like at the back. You've got a straight, it's as straight as it can be, given that I don't have it on here. properly, but you have a straight edge. This is your top edge of the shawl across the back. And some people might prefer that to a pointy edge, because if we carry a little bit more back there than we like, pointing to it isn't the smartest thing. But wearing it like that, I have my tag on it, so it's pulling a bit. But wearing it with a straight edge and quite a pretty feature up here is a very interesting way to wear it. And I thought I really enjoyed seeing her show that. So I'm going to, I'll leave that one. I'm going to take this one off. So that's a few ways for shawls. Next, I'm going to talk about wraps. And you know, when I talk wrap, I mean a wide rectangular shaped piece. Now I have just one with me. I should have brought a second one. This one is heavier than a lot of wraps are. This is definitely a 4-weight yarn. It, we've got things flying around here. It is a decent width. Got a hair in my mouth. And it is made for a little bit of warmth. I don't know if you can see how much sparkle there is in it, but there is, oh, there we see some sparkles, and they are sequins. There's sequins in the yarn. You can see them there. So one of the styles I'm going to talk about is not appropriate with this heavy of a wrap. And most of you, of course, would put the wrap around your shoulders and around your arms, much like this. If your wrap is a finer material, like a number 2 weight, I have done this with some of what would be called a wrap. And by the way, a wrap has a decent amount of width to it. You want it to go down your back a little bit. Some wraps, rectangular stall, they call them stoles as well. Some of them are not as wide. They're just meant to barely go over your shoulders. This one is meant to be a little bit longer and give a little bit more warmth. And it's heavier. But if it were thin, made of fingering weight like this is, you could bunch it up. This one won't be good, but you could bunch it up and wear it like a scarf. It does do twofold that way. And this one I suppose you could, if you wanted to put it, wear it like that as a scarf. You might want to pin it there to hold it in place. If you're going to wear it the whole day or evening, whatever, as kind of a scarf, then I think I would probably pin it. But here is one other way to wear a wrap or a stole, and that is to find the middle, even up the sides, put the middle on the one shoulder, and then over here you can take a shawl pin, and mine isn't quite long enough, but they do make longer shawl pins, or in this case the bamboo chopsticks would work, and you weave it in along here, right along the edge up here. I'm weaving in, like I said, I don't have a long enough one, but by weaving it in up here, and you can just weave a little bit at the shoulder, you can weave it all the way down to the outside edge. Now this is weird looking because it is a stick pin. You make this into a poncho. Now, one thing I'm going to mention to you, if you're ever making something like this, and I see this EFA, Expression Fiber Arts, does this with a couple of their patterns. When they're all done making the item, they make what they call an I-cord. And, you know, to me, it's simply a little, excuse me, a little bit thicker than doing a chain. with your leftover, make an I-cord. And they show how you can weave the I-cord into this edge. Now, if I had a chopstick, I could put one in there if I had something longer. But if I had an I-cord, and I'm sure most of you have heard the word I-cord, it's more popular in knitting, but it can be done in crochet as well. Then you could weave that I-cord in along here. And then you are wearing your wrap, your rectangular wrap or stole, like, I'm just going to hold it, like a poncho. And there you have your point. And so that's another way to make use of the item that you're making. The more versatile we can make the accessory, the item we're making, the more use we're going to get out of it. So I'm just going to throw that back on her like that for now. And finally, I want to talk about asymmetrical triangles. And some of them are smaller, such as this one I made, and it's meant more to be like a scarf. But some of them are much bigger, like this one. You will remember me making this one, and I have several that are made in a little heavier weight. I have one that's in DK weight. I have one that's in sport weight. This one is the cotton acrylic gradient cake, so it's not real heavy. I'd say it's about a 2 weight. And I've made asymmetricals like this one I showed you in fingering weight. And some of them get quite long. There's another one. And this is very, very lightweight. So I would wear it more as a scarf, like a dressy scarf. This one is heavier, and several of the ones I've shown you are heavier. Now, you can just put it on and do nothing. This one is so big, it became very large, that the flat side at the bottom almost puts the point in. This is a little heavy to lift, almost puts the point in the center, and you can wear it like a shawl. It's that big. But she showed ways to fashion this that I found very, very interesting. Now, she used these buttons, and what she did was she put the point more or less in the middle, and then this is the long, this is the very long, going around the neck, is the very long diagonal side. We call it the hypotenuse. And along the side here is the flat bottom. So this is hanging down here. It is shorter than this side. And then she took several of these buttons and she fastened them together down the front. Now I only have one button, so I can't do what she did. But she fastened them in a straight line down the front, and I'll move this for a bit. You can see one side is longer than the other side. Okay, back up we come. That was one way she showed it. She also showed it where it came around the neck. You put this across, giving you that diagonal look, and then you bring this over, and then it can hang. It's shorter than it was because I put this up higher, And again, you can fasten it. Actually, she went across the body, I believe, and again made that diagonal. She is really big into making these diagonals, which seem to go up to accent the face. She also turned it around several ways. And finally, she did, I'll see if I can duplicate it. She took this straight edge and she put it up. I don't think I can do it. I did a diagram and honestly, put the straight edge around the neck. That must have been what it was. And then brought this up. Nope, that's not how she did it. There was another thing she showed that would work both with a shawl and with this. And that was where you put it back the way a shawl would be. And oftentimes people will throw this up over the shoulder and it won't stay up over the shoulder. It keeps falling. And she said, well, that's not a problem. Same with a shawl. If you have a regular triangular pointed shawl, you often have the two, I can do it with this small one. You often have the two, this is taking way longer than I expected, but I think it's worth it. Get back there. You often have the two of them and you want to crisscross them or throw one over your shoulder and it won't stay there. Well, she had a really good point. She says, well, if this is a shawl that I have put up here and I want, like I got a small, can you see that? I got the small end here and I got the really long end here and I'm throwing that end over my shoulder. Well, lots of times, let's see if I move back. Lots of times, you know, you get busy during the day and you're doing your thing and this is falling off. It wants to fall forward. She says, well, here's the way to solve it. Let it fall forward and pin it. Get a shawl pin, get a button, get whatever it is you have and pin it through here. Jabbing the girl there. Pin it through there, secure, and then you might even do it a little higher up here. Pin it so it's secure with whatever you have and let it fall forward. And that is the way you wear it. And I have a lot of asymmetrical shawls, mostly smaller ones, but I have made a number of bigger ones. And I'm really liking making asymmetrical shawls. And I see this as a way that I can pin it, whatever size it is, up here. I've got like a shawl in the back feature. I've got it across the front, keeping my chest warm if I want. And then I don't have to worry about draping it over and falling all the time. Every time you look at me, I can let it do that. So I can do the same thing with this. I can have this short side here and I bring the long side and I want, and by the way, you want to spread it out if you have beautiful edges like this. And I can bring this up here however I would like this to lay in the front. And I can get my, oh, it's over here. I can get my little clasp and I can put it in here. And then I can purposely let it fall. I wouldn't use a fancy one. I would use one that's very plain, that's not fastened. I'm sorry. It's too fast. And it can fall forward. And then we have all of the beautiful edging showing here and around, and the edging shows at the back as well. So I found that I wouldn't do it probably with such a lightweight scarf. I would do it more with a heavier scarf. So there are more ways that she showed in that video, so I hope you will check out the link I have put in the description box that shows different ways to fashion your accessories. And I hope you found that interesting and worthwhile. So here we are back again. I'm now wearing one of the fashion scarves that I actually showed in that video clip that you just watched. For the life of me, I can't remember which one it is, but it's got sparkle in it. I think you can see some sparkle, and I do know that it is a pattern by C.J. Brady, and a lot of you know that's one of my favorite designers. So if I can figure out the name of it, I will link it in the description box below, but I definitely don't know what yarn it was. So there is a fashion scarf. Now, I hope you enjoyed seeing these different ways to style the things that you are making. Now, here's kind of a funny thing. I mentioned that I based some of what I said on a video by Bonnie Barker, who is Bonnie Bay Crochet, and I will link that video in the description box below. But after I made that video, the very next day, Bonnie had another video on how to style your shawls. Now, it's a much shorter video, and it talked a lot more about the items you can get from Jewel Designs. But she did show a couple of ways to fashion or style a shawl, and I wanted to show those, but I said the video's already made and I'm not going to add more to it here. But I will put both of those links to both of those videos in my description box. But I did want to add one thing to what I said in that video. I talked about a clip that I said is usually sort of round, and it has a stick that goes through it, and it twists to hold it. Well, I couldn't remember the name of it, but since I made the video, I went looking for it, and I'm going to put a picture up here beside me of one from Etsy, and it's called a penannular pin. And this shows how it is round. You can see the pin going through the center. You would put the pin through your item of clothing and then put the circle over it and then be able to twist it around so the pin wasn't at the opening, and it would secure it on your item, on your shawl or whatever. And I'm definitely going to get one, and when I do get one, I will demonstrate it. But I wanted to show you and give you a name. You go on Etsy and put that in, you'll see hundreds of them. I just can't make up my mind which one I want to get right now. So that's all I want to say about that. I hope you did find that interesting and enjoyable. I saw some new ways to fashion things that I am going to try myself. Now moving on, I have an acquisition I want to show you. I don't want to make this too long of a video, but I like to show this as it comes in. I got my subscription from Arkansas Sock in the mail right after I made the last video, and here it is, and it is called Spill the Royal Tea. And the things that I will show you, the extras that came with it first. First of all, it came with common room coffee cozy. Looks like koozie, but anyhow, I think that's a cozy to put around your coffee mug or cup. And it is a knitted pattern, so I won't be hanging on to that. I will be sending it on to somebody in my community that knits. Also with the pattern, I got this, it's a cookie, and it is an authentic Dutch stroopwafel. It reminds me a bit of the cookies we get here that are also Dutch, and they're called double Dutch waffle. You know what restraint I had to use to not eat this since I got it? That'll be the first thing on my to-do list when I finish this video. Anyway, it came with a cookie that I guess would be good with the tea. Then it came with 2 packs, if I can, there it is. 2 packs of open loose leaf tea. I don't drink tea or coffee, so this one is custard apple. That's a nice fall flavor. And rustic apricot rose blend. So there are 2 loose teas, and along with that, because that's our theme, there is a teaspoon, very nice teaspoon, little teaspoon, and I don't know, let's see, this is called a, teapot lever back. No, that's not it. Oh, a diffuser spoon. Again, not being a tea lover, but you could put the loose leaf teas in that and make your tea. So that came with it to go with the yarn. Oh, and of course, we always get a needle. There's our, some call them needle minders or progress keepers. I call it a stitch marker. So there's the Arkansas one, and with it comes, oh, get out of the way, a teapot. Isn't that cute? I know somebody that would like that, so I think I might be giving it to her. So those are all of the little extra goodies that come with the yarn. And of course, the yarn is what we most want to see. And for those that don't know, that are new, I get 2 skeins of their Yummy Sparkle base. I have called them and changed it for next month. I'm going to stop the sparkle at this point. I think I have enough sparkle for the time being. And again, it's called Spill the Royalty, and it's a merino nylon stellina blend. And here it is. You can see the sparkle in this yarn, and it's a very nice, yeah, it's called Yummy. I'm going to be getting Yummy Plush instead of Yummy Sparkle. And then it has all of these nice speckles in it. I don't know if that's black or just a very dark, yeah, it looks black there, and greens and maroons and lighter greens. Looks very pretty, a little more green on this end. And of course I have 2 of them, so it's enough to make a shawl because there's 437 yards in a skein. And so that's the acquisition that I wanted to show you today. So now we have to take care of business in a couple of ways. First of all, I realized I've been very lax in not talking about all the rules and regulations when we do a giveaway, and we're keeping that word under wraps, remember. So I'm going to say a prize. I did not post all the rules and regulations. You must be 18. You must be a subscriber. You can be anywhere in the world, but you must be able to receive it in your country when I send it. And once I send it, it's out of my hands. It's up to you. You will be responsible for any duties or taxes when it comes to your country. I don't think in the US that happens, but it might to some of the other countries overseas. I can't remember what the other rules everybody posts, but anyway, you know, there are some rules governing this giveaway. This is my giveaway. It's not sponsored by anybody. YouTube has nothing to do with it. I buy all of this with my own money. So we first want to see who won last week. And the key word was honey. And here's a picture of the winner, and it's Adam. Congratulations, Adam. And you will be getting this skein of yarn from Cornbread and Honey. And I always put a few little extras in with it. And you will definitely be getting some maybe appropriate extras. So that brings us to the fact that now I have another giveaway for this week. And this week, I am giving away this skein of yarn. This was the one you should have won, Adam. This is from the Mermaid's Purse, and she is in the UK. Yeah, there's her label. Adam is in the UK, if you didn't realize. And this is this is a fingering weight again, and it is 400 meters, and it's 100% superwash merino. Oh, sorry, no, it's 100% superwash BFL. So that is the skein of yarn, and it's called Secure. We're not going to use that. So let's take something easy. Let's take purse. Since this is from the Mermaid's Purse, let's take the word purse. If you use the word purse down below in your comments, you'll be put in the running for this skein of yarn. It's kind of a creamy base with a lot of bright pink speckles, but it also has some pale blue in the base. And 400 yards, it feels nice. So anyway, if you are interested in this skein of yarn, put the word purse in the comments below. And again, no, do not use a word giveaway anywhere. We don't need, you know, the YouTube scammers getting involved in this. And again, there'll likely be a few extras with this when it gets mailed out. So I think that's all the time we want to use this week. It was a long, the part where I showed you how to style your accessories was a little longer than I anticipated being. Now, next week, what's going on next week? First of all, let me find this. Next week, you really want to be here next week. Next week will be the 21st. It'll be the actual 2-year anniversary since I actually started. The anniversary really is on a Saturday, and of course I do my videos on Thursday, but that marks the 2-year mark, and there'll be a little bit more going on that particular video. And I'm also going to do a review of an EFA yarn, one that kind of surprised me a little bit, and I decided to do it next. I have a finished object to show you. I may have more than one to show you next week. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about October in next week's video as well. So you're going to want to be here next week. It's going to be a very special week. So until then, happy hooking.